I'm excited to talk about something that I've had for a long time, the Audioscape G Stereo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. Good something. Hi, I'm Jeremy. This is Recording Studio Loser, and we haven't been in the control room in a minute, but I'm excited. The Audioscape G Stereo Buss Compressor. This is not a sponsored video. They don't know I'm making this video. I've had this for 6 or 7 months. It was a piece that worked its way so quickly into my workflow. I had just kind of set it, fell in love with it, and then didn't think about it again. Every track that I've printed, it was on my 2-bus every single time. I've used it in a whole lot of different contexts and I've really liked it. So what's the thing with an SSL style compressor? I feel like a lot of us have a lot of familiarity with any number of SSL style plugins. I have my favorites. I know you guys have your favorites. So what's the difference? Is there benefit to getting out of the box? I want to talk about it. So I've got a session pulled up here. This is something you guys have seen before. This is Joshua Powell. Go check out the artist. This was something that we had done with only Lauten mics, and that thing sounds insane. I really like the way the tones on this turned out. But we're gonna mess around with this compressor in a lot of different contexts. Now you'll see as I pull this up, I have a hardware insert in Pro Tools right here, where it says MBP. I just have it in that spot right now, so ignore that labeling. What's actually happening, if you see down here, I've got the Audioscape G Stereo and the Neve Portico. The Neve is bypassed, it's turned off. We're not sending signal through that. This is just the Audioscape, so getting that out of the way. So first off, let's take a listen to this track. I have muted the vocal, and we're basically just listening to the instrumental of this. So let's take a look at these drums real quick. I mean, I think SSL style compression, I immediately go to drums. What I've got here is the Audioscape down here. Now let's turn this on real quick, and I'm actually going to engage a trim because I like to hit the detector. I know that the transients on this coming out of this bus in particular are hot. I'm in 32-bit in Pro Tools, but this thing is going to see it clipping, so I'm going to pull that down. I would do that with most plugins anyway, but leaving Pro Tools, it's going to mess with the input stage. So that's why I'm introducing a trim plugin first. And it's doing about 8 dB bringing it down, which is pretty typical, even on my master. So let's take a listen to just the drums without. Actually, let's listen without the trim plugin as well. Okay, so let's engage this thing. And I have this set, basically my favorite way to use it on drums. So I'll actually start the threshold at 0 here when we pull it in. Ratio set 4:1. I'm going to set my attack to 1. I don't know if that's 1 millisecond. I'm not really sure. I like it at 1. And then the release as fast as it'll go. So I'm going to let some of these transients through, and then it's going to start squashing. And I'm actually going to pull out what I think is one of the coolest things about this compressor, the sidechain. It has an internal sidechain. It feels like it's around 160-ish hertz, where it's going to ignore the frequencies below that on the detector of the device while it starts compressing. So let's give this a listen. So right there, we've got some spank, man. Let's go back. Let's listen to without it. Drums are cool. Now with it back in. Now let's listen to it in context, because this is where it's really going to start making a lot of sense. The thing I like about this and what I feel it does differently than a lot of plugins is what it's doing to the sides. There's like a squish factor across the board here that I just don't hear in plugins. And a lot of times that's completely fine. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let me kind of get like a bombastic spot and then let's try to recreate it. I mean, that needle's going insane. Let's go ahead and engage the sidechain here. This is one of those videos I really hope that YouTube compression doesn't absolutely screw me on the back end here. But it is so delightfully squishy. Try to hone into what's happening on like the decay of the kick, like what it's doing to the room, how it's bringing stuff forward towards you. That's pretty bombastic right there. Let's listen to this in context. Let's listen without. So I'm actually a little under volume. Let's kind of match this. It just glues that entire kit together. So let's go to oldie but a goodie, Waves SSL. Let's go ahead and real quick set this to basically what we've got on the plugin. About the same. Now the thing you're going to get here, most SSL style compressors don't have that internal sidechain. And that's okay. Cool. Let's go back to the Audioscape. See if I can get this dial a little closer. Okay, that looks like it's level matched. Definitely don't feel like it. Peaks were matched. I'm looking over here at this is weird. So even with the waves hitting peak louder than the Audioscape, I still don't get the same kind of squish factor. It can glue the thing together, but it's very different. I'm listening to the sides, and what I'm hearing on the sides is very different to me. Back to the Audioscape. Like the hi-hat on the side, it just pops right out to me. Let's listen to both of these in context. And the waves. Really interesting. Let's do a different style here. So this is UAD's version. This is the legacy one because I don't have the new one. But that's okay. Definitely feels closer. It's more polite. Like listening to the snare, there's a clear difference here in the transient and what's happening. And right now, the UAD is actually louder than the Audioscape, but it doesn't feel like it. The transients are just hitting so clear with the hardware. Let's listen to these in context. I definitely like the way it seems like the snare is hiding in any other context. But on the Audioscape, it just pops, which is what I want out of an SSL style. I want it to react to the snare and basically duck everything else around it so that it feels like the music is kind of pumping to the snare. That's how I like to treat them, especially in a drum context. And we'll get to a master here in a bit. Now, let's go to one of my favorite right now, the Plug-in Alliance Townhouse. I love this, and I use it everywhere. It definitely feels like I need to goose into this plugin more. Maybe not. It just feels, The beauty of the Townhouse here, I can have a sidechain filter set to roughly the same spot as the Audioscape, and that feels like 160, 150 to me. Alright, so right now this is way louder. Still, listen to the transients of the kick and the snare. Let's go back to the Audioscape. Man. This feels like it's bringing the room close to me where I like it on the Audioscape, but I still don't have that transient attack in the other one. Let's look at this in a totally different context. Let's put our drums back to the way they were, and let's move this bad boy to the master, where God intended it to be. So we're here on the master. I have moved the attack to 0.3, released to 0.1. Let's go ahead and set the threshold so that it's kind of bouncing with the snare a little bit. Like, the thing I get from this on the mix bus is what it does to the sides. Because let's move this out of the way and let's bring in like a Townhouse over here, like my favorite one. And Townhouse is fantastic on this. Let's go ahead and match the settings ish. Like, that's cool, and it's doing the glue thing, but if we bring the Audioscape back in, the difference is what's happening to the transients and what's happening to the side information. I don't know exactly how to describe that, but as soon as I got it, that's what I noticed, and that's why I put it on the 2-bus, and that's why I've mostly been using it there. It is tasty on a drum bus. It is tasty on bass. But where I think it shines is on a 2-bus. And for being a very affordable piece, what is it right now? So it looks like right now you can get it from their website for $6.99. That's a steal. For what this does and the value that I've gotten out of this unit, that's a steal. Not to mention, most of the plugins you're going to purchase in this form factor, like of an SSL style thing, are probably going to be around $100. But the actual cost of ownership of hardware unit could be far less than a plugin, because you could then resell it if you don't enjoy it, if you don't like it, if it's run its course. You can get rid of it for roughly the same price as what you paid for it. Obviously, that's not the case with all gear. However, this thing, in the 6 or 7 months that I've had it, it has made that for me. It has paid itself off. I think kind of the discussion between plugins and hardware can kind of get weird, and we're not really talking apples to apples, because there's a lot more happening here than just hardware versus plugins. There's a form factor. How do you use this? There's a workflow thing involved, and is this right for you? But with this piece, It is $6.99. In the realm of outboard gear, that is darn cheap. Darn cheap. And frankly, this thing is playing above its price point. So right here, we're basically as close level matched as I can. It probably isn't perfect. I'm going to pop the Audioscape in and out. Listen to what it's doing to the sides. Listen to what it's doing to the guitar. Listen to the kick and the snare. And I'm actually going to pop the vocal in so we can see what it does with a lot of information in the middle. And let's listen to it on a faster portion to listen to how that attack and those transients are being treated.
Tell me what you know.
What it feels like it's doing, as opposed to some of the other plugin options here, is it's like grabbing and focusing and just bringing those sides closer to you, or spreading things out ever so slightly. Be interested to see what you guys think. I'd be interested to see how YouTube compression messes with this. Let me know if you can hear a difference. To me, this is pretty obvious, and what this is doing is very much its own flavor. The sidechain built into this thing makes it that much more versatile for so many more things than a typical SSL style compressor would. The Audioscape did a really good job with this at a killer price point, because you could go out and spend a whole lot more on something like this. I'm actually curious what the actual SSL style is. You could buy 2 of these for 1. I could stop the video there. As always, guys, gear is not going to make or break you. These are all tools. What makes you faster? Does it fit your workflow? Does it fit your budget? This is a $699 outboard unit. That's not cheap, but it is pretty darn cheap in the realm of outboard stuff. And what it's doing to the sides is really interesting to me, and I think that's the main difference, because I slept on SSL style stuff for a long time because I had the plugin versions. They do the thing, they do the glue thing, they do the pumpy thing when you want it, and they're not right for every situation. Having an outboard unit has taught me a very different way to use even the plugins in the plugin world, and I still do. I use a lot of those plugins. The Townhouse right now is on every single mix that I do, but it's fundamentally different than what's happening here, and I think that's the cool version. So whether you're going to use an actual SSL style thing, whether you go for Audioscape, I say get an SSL style outboard at some point. And if you're not digging it, you can turn around and resell it, but you're going to learn a whole heck of a lot about compression in that amount of time. And if you're looking around for which one to go, this one's $6.99. That ain't bad. As a reminder, this is not a sponsored video. Audioscape has no idea I'm making this. So hit the like button, hit subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy, and I'll catch you in the next one.